What's going on, everybody? This is the third and final single from my current album. This is Live It Up, the funk and disco infused track from Songs of Life and Love, Volume 1. Let's get it in. Actually, there's another song that I was going to put out, a secret fourth single that was never released on streaming that you can only hear on the album. I thought about releasing it as a special for people who are signed up to my fan club, but I'll get more into that later. In any case, getting right to it, Live It Up is part of the overall story arc of this concept album, which deals with the dark side of love, fame, the music industry, and capitalism in general. In this particular song, which I think of as chapters, the hero of her story has had some time to bounce back from a bad breakup that he had with his girlfriend. Although his morals might not seem so heroic, as he's still looking to fulfill a revenge fantasy, as it were. That is to say, he wants to get back at his girl by becoming rich, successful, running around with other women. He wants to hurt his ex by showing her how well he's doing, since he thinks she left him for a man with more money. That in itself is a whole other documentary as far as explaining the miscommunication that leads up to all of this, but that could be for another day. To sum it up, Live It Up explores the idea of spending money to fill the emptiness that has been left by this breakup. The hero sings about this fantasy woman he's looking for, someone he wants to spoil by taking out shopping to expensive stores, things like that. And this is interesting in the sense that he's already putting this energy out there in the universe. Later on in the story, it actually manifests. And as the old saying goes, be careful what you wish for. So being that this song is about spending money on this fantasy woman, I knew that the mall would be an ideal setting. The vibe of the music evokes that kind of setting, and I even added a little mall announcement skit at the beginning. It goes, "Welcome to the Noir Valley Mall, where we have everything you think you need." This entails that you don't actually need it, and putting this kind of shopping in the realm of a drug. Now, as far as the production of the video itself, I wanted a mall, but again, this is a fantasy. I wanted something dreamy, surreal, a fantasy mall to evoke this kind of concept. It worked out nicely because I was looking to do something different, besides the normal thing that would usually be done for videos. I saw what people were doing with AI, and I thought, well, there's potential with that. However, I didn't want to just generate a bunch of images. I wanted to somehow ground it in this reality as well, a blending of realities. After some brainstorming, I came up with an idea that I could superimpose myself onto a background that was AI generated. I had never messed with AI tools for a music video though. I had just created some superhero clips and stuff, which was cool, but it wouldn't be enough to carry the weight of what I wanted to do. After experimenting a bit with AI software, and this is Runway ML Gen 2 by the way, I realized I could take existing shots and process them, then tell AI what I wanted them to look like, and in this case, a 1970s mall. So I was pleased with the results, and this was good because I figured out I would be able to get a background where the lighting and the angles matched. If I just slapped some random background in the back and green screen myself onto it, that would work, but if I had no reference to give AI, it might be a background that's not convincing. I wanted the backgrounds to match the perspectives and everything, so it looked like I actually was standing there. The other challenge was the green screen itself. So my green screen is only so big, so I'd be confined to only that relatively small square to work with. The settings in the background are very much a character itself. The mall is essentially alive, and a key aspect in telling a story about commercialism. After messing around with the AI tools a bit more, I realized they had an option on there where I could green screen out anything around me. I didn't actually need a screen to do any superimposing stuff. So this is a game changer. This means I could get all the area around me in that shot, didn't have to worry about stretching out a screen to surround me everywhere. So the software would just know where to cancel out the extra area. Anyways, that's just some of the technical stuff about the video. I also like to talk about the thought process behind the video, where I got the ideas, the meanings of the symbolism, behind the scenes, etc. Right off the bat, I'm using Runway ML Gen 2 once again to generate some of this stuff. A lot of people are using this now for videos and image design. That was one of the challenges of making this video, which I always like a challenge. But yeah, in the sense that since everyone else is doing it, how can I use it in a way that's different? The mixing of live with generated was one of the things that I thought would make it stand out. But yeah, with so much critique of AI generated vids, people saying, oh, everyone's doing that, I wanted to do it differently. That pushed me to get creative. And there's truth in what they say too, because a lot of vids that do use AI do look very similar. The other reason I use AI and very likely for the same reason other people are using it, is due to limitations of time and other resources. Right off the bat, jumping right in, we have this woman, quote unquote, looking through a strange mall background. Finding people like this would take time and effort, and mind you, I'm all about that, but I was running behind schedule due to some production issues I was having with another project. This left me with little time to complete this video, and I wanted to remain true to the vision of the storyline. I didn't want to compromise this scene, so using AI, I was able to achieve it. And once again, as with my other vids, I think it actually played to my advantage, doing it this way. Having an AI-generated woman gives it a creepy, artificial feel that keeps it in line with the concept of the story. In this case, a false sense of well-being. And I blurred the lines of this scene, literally. Sometimes the lines created by AI-generated vids are a bit too rough, so I added a focus blur effect to soften the look, similar to one you'd have on a nice camera lens. This also gave the scene more of a sense of depth and realism, making the scene seem a bit more lifelike. Here again, I took various shots of the local mall and ran them through the AI to make it look like a 70s mall. What's cool is this mall is actually opened in 1978, so it already had maybe a bit of a retro appeal to it. All the rest of the scenes are filtered as well, like this one. This scene's cool because this is from an open mic in Baltimore, while a buddy of mine is performing. This one is when we're driving back from that same open mic the same night. You can see the cars and whatnot passing by. So here's the first example of the perspective thing I was talking about. I filmed just the background at first. Then I did a shot where I was singing and dancing in front of it. Then I filtered the background to make it look more 70s, and I green screened myself, quote unquote, onto the background, again using that software. Again, this would ensure that all the angles and lighting were correct, even though the background was AI generated. I just needed a reference for the background, basically. This plane is all AI generated. I told Runway to create something like this, and I thought it would be cool. This one, some of you might recognize a picture of Farrah Fawcett, but once again, I just ran it through Runway. These were fun because I got to see how the garments we were walking by in the department store interacted with us after the process was complete. It's not exact, nor is the green screening process in general. You can see some rough outlines around us since it's not an actual green screen. That's okay though because it gives it that cutout look. These are once again all AI generated, but I thought they fit, being that there was a return of interest to Indian culture during the psychedelic phase of the 60s and 70s. Also being that movie scenes often highlight the opulence of such cultures that would convey the feeling of wealth. I made sure to include a lot of gold. This is a filtered version of one of the moon explorations in the 70s. Being that lunar missions were a thing in that era as well, I thought that would fit. This is also a theme I incorporate in the vid, along with the Indian one. Of course, I had to add a disco scene. I added the Eiffel Tower scenes to add a feeling of travel. Here's another scene of me walking in a department store. This one's interesting because I filtered it as well. However, unlike the other scenes, it looks closer to the original backgrounds more than any of the others. The irony here is that it looked too real, thereby not fitting in with the rest of the video. I did some things to it to make it look a bit more generated. These are wild. I actually used a picture of myself as a reference, and I told Runway to make me look like a genie, and I'm looking into a crystal ball and looking at this fantasy woman. Instead, it made the woman look into the ball themselves. Sometimes AI does weird things like that, and I ran it through, generated one where it looked like a grown woman, another a younger one. I decided to merge them together, and the symbology here is that you could see it as her inner child was never quite healed, so now she's running after something to fill that void. You know, deep psychological stuff, yada yada. As weird as this was, it pales in comparison to this one. This goes from weird to just creepy, where it morphed my face into one like Nick Cage and started trying to communicate with me. Sometimes the things AI creates is just the stuff of nightmares. To be sure, I wasn't going to put this in the video, but since this is the documentary, I thought I might include this for you brave Troners out there. Eek. These parts are cool. We got my buddy Batman walking through the garments now, and this plane landing. Took some old plane footage, and as opposed to some plain old footage, filtered it. The result is like something you'd see in heavy metal or some other old school animation thing. It's cool. Here I am dancing by the bathrooms in the mall. It was a bit awkward, but I liked that location so much I couldn't help but using it as one of the scenes. It's funny because at one point you actually see someone coming out from the ladies' room. Luckily, mall security was never called. I like this part. Again, it has the old school animation look. Originally, it was people just watching a rocket take off, but once I ran it through AI, they were made into trees. I thought that was cool. Right after that, segues into an astronaut thing again. So again, we have the space reference. Okay, Blue Genie to the rescue to help us forget about the nightmares from earlier. I'd finally gotten the genie thing right. Didn't quite get the girl to appear in the crystal ball, so I just had this transition into a painting I had with AI. That works too. I like how this part turned out. It's the mall, but once more it filters through AI. Then it transitions into a scene of a rocket taking off once again. I didn't quite like how it looked using just the AI version, so it overlapped the original and the AI version, and it made them equally visible. This gave the footage just enough realism to blend with the rest of the video. For the record, I thought the space theme was also fitting by virtue of it represents escaping to another world. Anyways, guys, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you soon.